Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome our first speaker, co-founder of BTCC, Mr. Bobby Lee.
Hello, good morning everyone. How are we doing? So I'm very happy to be here. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, the impact of Bitcoin on its 10th year. We're going to celebrate Bitcoin's 10-year anniversary in less than 2 months, in January of 2019, and what the impact it has had on the world through 3 aspects: ownership, control, and freedom. Are you guys ready? All right. Let's see if these clickers work. Great. So let's talk about the ownership model. If you think about everything you own today, all your personal assets, your lifetime savings, and so on, ownership actually only falls under 2 models. The first model is through identity. It's the idea that all your assets are owned through title. Think about the real estate. Think about stocks, brokerage accounts. Think about the money in your bank. Think about the cars you own. If you own airplanes and boats, same thing. Things are owned under your name. And that's how the world today works. The government enforces it through the legal system. You have title to your home. You have title to your brokerage account, the money in your bank, and so on. But did not all used to be that way. In the old days, ownership was through physical possession. In fact, the mobile phones you're holding, the clothing you're wearing, the eyeglasses, the jewelry, the gold you have at home, that's owned by physical possession. So that's the other ownership model. So if you own some red wine, if you own artwork, things that you hold on to in person, okay? But the truth is, for the vast majority, 95% of your worth is actually owned through identity, under your name, through your name. Well, what's new? What's new with Bitcoin is that for the first time, we have ownership by information. We are saying that now you own Bitcoin and cryptocurrency because you have an account, you have a private key, a very long password. The private key is what enables you to transfer your cryptocurrency out of that account on the blockchain. And that is essentially ownership by information. So we've only had this for 10 years, meaning that 10 years ago with Bitcoin, we invented ownership by information, the concept of ownership by information. And why is that important? Because before ownership by information, there's this concept of control. Governments and companies have always had control over your money, control over your accounts. All of your bank accounts, all of your stock brokerage accounts, even your real estate, because it's owned under your name and your identity, someone else has control of your assets. You may think you have $2,000 in the bank account, but the reality is it depends on the bank, the manager, the institution to allow you to withdraw how much per day, to allow you to transfer. If you're not there, can you make a phone call and ask the money to be transferred? There's all this burden, right? They control not only your accounts, they actually control your money as well. When you have money in banks, like many of you know, 5 years ago in Cyprus, there was a budget crisis, and what happened was the government decided to do a haircut on all bank account deposits, over 100,000 euros. So people were really upset. They lined up in front of ATMs and tried to get the money out of the bank accounts as soon as possible. So, and this is not just Cyprus. Many forms of fiat money in the world, you've actually had inflation. So they also have control of the money's value. Think about, I have a 500 euro note here. I was in Europe 2 months ago. This is one of the larger notes. 500 euros is a lot of money. I could buy a lot of things with 500 euros. Is that right? Okay, so, but the value, this is just a piece of paper. I have control over this. I can hold it. No one can steal it away from me. But the value inside the euro, inside this paper note, just like the value of money inside the Deutschmark before the war, the Zimbabwe dollar, even the Venezuela bolivar, that value can go away quickly if the central bank prints too much money. And that's what happened over the last few years. And even in India, 2 years ago, they decided to ban the 500 and 1,000 rupee note. It happens also in countries like Great Britain. Anyone from Britain here? British people? Yeah? So they canceled the £5 note. The paper 500, they just canceled it. It wasn't big news because maybe they suppressed it in the media, but the 10-pound note was also canceled because they switched it to the new polymer, the plastic version. So even if you have the piece of paper in your hand, one day the European Central Bank can cancel the 500 euro note. They've talked about it. They talked about start printing it. They can cancel it, and then this will be worthless, or I have to go to the bank or something. So the question is there a fiat money? Is there a fiat money that actually never depreciates? What do you guys think? Is there fiat money that never depreciates in value? Any answers to that? Anyone know? Well, there is. From our friends in Europe, it's called the 0 euro note. And every fiat note actually goes to zero. Even the 500 euro note in front of me, right? The 500 euro note actually it's just in a blink of an eye becomes a 0 euro note. See? And this is a real note. This is actually a real note. I did a small magic trick here, but this is a real note. You can actually get this. You can actually get this in Europe. You buy this at tourist destinations, but they charge you 3 euros for that. But at least they're smart because they issued, it already has 0 on it, so you know it will never go below 0. So that's the math there. Okay, so joking aside, but the future, in talking about control, the future is that with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, we are taking control back. We're no longer letting governments and companies and payment institutions and central banks control our money. Because why is that? Because money, I've been thinking about this hard. Money is actually freedom. People have asked me, why do people need money? Well, money is actually freedom. When you have your own money, it's your freedom. Why is that? Because your money comes from your hard work. That you worked hard either yesterday, last week, last month, last year, or when you were working hard when you were young, when you're retired now. Okay, so if you've worked hard and you saved up your labor and your earnings from your hard work, that is money. And if you cannot spend it, if you cannot transfer it, if you have to ask for permission, or if the value of your money goes away because the government steals it away from you, 1%, 3%, 5% a year, then that's stealing your work and that's essentially enslaving you. That's why this conversation is so critical. And I didn't realize this. I've been in Bitcoin since 2011, and I didn't really get this until just 2 years ago. So our future is with digital assets. For the first time, we have truly digital assets that you can own without recourse, without anyone else telling you. What we're saying is now, instead of trusting central banks, central institutions, instead of trusting governments, we're now trusting mathematics, crypto, right? So the notion that money, this is 0 euro, but, really every piece of paper note you have eventually goes to zero. In the course of human history, every fiat money has gone to zero. What we see today, whether it's the Singapore dollar, the US dollar, it's just right now. In fact, a reporter was asking me to make a clarification. In an interview last week, I said that the US dollar has lost 97% of its value. And it has. In the 1920s, just 100 years ago, the US dollar, you could buy 1 ounce of gold with 35 US dollars. Now it's over 1,200 US dollars to buy an ounce of gold. So we can now trust mathematics. Information, for the first time, is ownership. So with the age of the computers, with the age of the internet, we could transfer information digitally around the world at light speed. But for the first time now, we can actually transfer transfer money, transfer ownership through information. Meaning that right now I'm talking to you, I'm giving a speech, you're listening to me, you're seeing my slides. This is communication through information. But what I'm not doing is I'm not giving you money. Or you're not giving me money. But we can do that with information, okay? And this is where we're talking about freedom of money. When money can be moved by information at the speed of light, globally, now all of you, all of us we now have true freedom. Our freedom depends on our ability to have our own money, to do whatever we want with it, spend it however we want, pay whoever we want, in whatever amount we want at any time of day we want. That is freedom of money, and that is very important. So we've had this freedom since 2009. Many of us were not aware of that. Anyone here using Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin in 2009? I have yet to meet someone like that. So many of you got involved in the last few years, but we've had this since 2009. And what is it? Bitcoin is the first truly digital asset, okay? It represents true freedom. It's limited to 21 million. You know this already. It's based on information and math. It's borderless and global, so no geographic, language, cultural barriers. And of course, it's not identity-based. And because it's not identity-based, there's no third-party control. Let me give a quick example. People complain Bitcoin is not has no real identity. That's a bad thing. I say that's not a bad thing. How many of you watch movies? You watch movies? Yes? Go to movie theaters? How many of you go to the airport and take flights? What's the difference between a movie ticket and an airline ticket? They're both made of paper. What's the difference? The difference is that the movie ticket is not tied to your name, whereas an airline ticket is tied to your name. Correct? Which is more free? When you have a movie ticket in your hand, do you have more freedom, or do you have an airline ticket? Is that more freedom? It turns out the movie ticket is more freedom because you can actually go and watch it. You could give it to someone else. You could sell it to a friend. You can transfer it to whoever you want, whenever you want, as long as it's before the movie. But the airline ticket, if you want to transfer your airline ticket, you need permission from the airline. Right? When something is identity-based, there's always someone else involved. There's always a customer service agent or a banker or someone else involved judging you, passport control. They say, are you who you are? And they could play nice or they could be very evil. Right? And that's what I'm talking about, the freedom, okay? No, not identity-based, therefore no third-party control. They go hand in hand. Okay, so with information as money, we're saying that we can now send and receive money just by information alone. All these ones and zeros, I've given you $1 billion right there on screen. Okay, I don't have $1 billion, but if I did, I would put it on screen, right? But what we're saying is information for the first time is really money, ones and zeros, you know, like that image of the $100 Singapore dollar bill. I mean, that's money, right? But that's not real money. I'm not really giving it to you because that's just an image. Okay, but I actually can do that. I can collect money from you. So for example, I can have a public key of my Bitcoin address. If you want to send me BTC, you can send it to that address, scan the QR code. Okay, I'm going to put the slide, keep it there for 5 minutes on screen so you could take a picture of it, pull out your wallets. But it's true, we can share this account. All of you can send your money there, just information alone. This is great for fundraising, it's great for disaster relief, or you just want to pay for my dinner, send money there. But the other thing I could do is I could also reveal the passcode, the private key. So what we have is a private key for that account, also a QR code and the actual letters. So that private key, actually that account, I put in 100 Singapore dollars in there this morning. So it has 100 Singapore dollars worth of Bitcoin. And if you really want, you can go and retrieve it. So I'm giving money to the audience just by showing you this slide. Are you guys ready? All right, no more. You guys want to see it again? One more chance, okay? So this is 100 Singapore dollars. Did anyone get it yet? Anyone trying to get it? Yes, okay, all right. Last chance, okay. But Bitcoin is really money in the cloud. Here's the point, okay? We have cloud computing, we have cloud services, we have a lot of things in the cloud. But for the first time with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, we have true money in the cloud. And the governments are very, very worried, okay? Because Bitcoin is the ultimate hard currency. In many countries with weak currencies or unstable governments, the currency is of dubious value. So the people who work in those countries, all they want to do is exchange their savings into US dollars or euros, right? I grew up in Africa. We saw that happen a lot. But Bitcoin is the ultimate version of that, okay? Bitcoin is about investing in the future. It's really a revolutionary new global asset class, and it's a true digital asset for a digital age. Okay, so welcome to the future. We're in the 10th year of Bitcoins. But there are a lot of challenges. Okay, and the reason the challenges is because the freedom of money that we have with Bitcoin, we're really going against the government in some ways. Governments have always had the ability and the technology and the endorsement of the people to issue money, to create currency. That has always been in the power of governments since the early days of society and civilization. Well, not so much anymore. Now we have Bitcoin. So that's why regulators globally are now challenging this cryptocurrency we call Bitcoin. What do they think of it? That's a common question. Well, all regulators, not just China, are thinking about this, and they're using different ways to address the problems, okay? So global challenges for Bitcoin regulation. It's decentralized, it's not a real currency, it violates foreign currency controls, there's a lot of money laundering issues, there's a lack of real identity, it's been used for fraud, a lot of pyramid schemes, a lot of risk, hacking risks, there's ICO regulation issues, STOs, taxation issues, corruption, graft, there's a lot of speculation trading, people losing money, market crashes, and ultimately actually competes with government crypto. So many governments are talking about issuing their own cryptocurrency, but those are all centralized government crypto. And the reason they're issuing it is trying to take your attention off of it. So in my mind, the whole thing about the last few years about blockchain, there's been a lot of emphasis on blockchain. I think that, if I were to say there's a conspiracy theory, I would say that governments have been trying to convince people to not focus on Bitcoin, but instead focus on blockchain. Because they don't want people to understand that Bitcoin represents true freedom, true money. They want you to continue to use their form of money, which is the fiat money that they print. Okay? So I've woken up. It's kind of like the movie The Matrix. I've woken up. I'm outside of the Matrix. I know what's really going on. But many people are still stuck in the Matrix, still using government fiat money. Now, it's true. I still use government fiat money. I still have government Singapore dollars. I have US dollars, Hong Kong dollars in my wallet. But this is a small amount of my savings. I have my savings in Bitcoin and other assets. So there will be a global pattern to suppress Bitcoin. What I mean by that, they're going to regulate exchanges. They're going to ban banks from dealing with transacting in Bitcoins and cryptocurrency. They're going to control ICOs. They're going to have securities regulation on STOs, token issuance. They're going to require proof of funds. When you make transfer, they're going to require where did that money come from. They're going to be very strict about it. Okay, a lot of KYC compliance things, and limit transfers. Who's been hit by bank transfer limit? I have. It's really bad. Right? Some of you are raising your hands, and more people will get that. Okay, and worst of all, they're creating a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Okay, we're going to quickly talk about money laundering. This is a topic that I'm beginning to get interested in. What is money laundering? Well, let me ask you this: is money laundering good or bad? Good or bad? It's bad, right? It's bad because it's illegal. Now, here's a question for you. Is it bad because it's illegal, or is it illegal because it's bad? Which came first? So if you think about it, what I've realized is money laundering, it became illegal first, and now people realize it's illegal, so that's why it's bad. But money laundering is very simple. It's like me giving you $100, you give me $20. If I change money with you, that's money laundering, basically. I think it's a cheap way for the police to try to catch criminals, because if they can't catch the criminals when they commit the criminal activity, they try to catch the criminals when they do the money transfer before or after the criminal activity. I think in the past, because of the money system, governments have a way to catch criminals by monitoring their transactions. That's why they made a new law to make it illegal to do money laundering. That's how they catch the criminals and prosecute the criminals. But I think this is dated. I think this is not going to work. Basically, what I'm going to say is that don't criminalize money transactions. If you want to catch criminals, you should catch the criminals in the criminal activity itself. Okay? If they're moving money, their movement of money is no different than us moving money. It's hard to judge why we move money, why we transact, why we make payments. It becomes very judgmental, becomes very political. In any case, we, as citizens of a free world, we have to prepare on the war on freedom. There will be a war on our freedom of money. What I mean by that is governments worldwide will do more and more to suppress Bitcoin, right? Why do you think prices have come down so much? Prices have come down 50% almost 50% in the last 2-3 weeks. It's come down 80% since an all-time high last December. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, doubt, a lot of market manipulation stuff, and they're trying to suppress Bitcoin. But why do Bitcoin prices keep going up? I say this because the value actually does not come from the endorsement, acceptance, or regulation by governments. Rather, Bitcoin's value actually comes from the inherent limitations, failures, and inconveniences of government money. That's why Bitcoin is valuable. Because the alternative is just not that good. Okay? So quickly, for fun, we have a few more minutes. Especially in this time of bear market, I urge you that if you're a true believer, if you truly understand the essence of Bitcoin, the impact of Bitcoin, about the new form of ownership, about the control we're taking back, about the freedom of money, you should hold or hodl Bitcoin. And there are 4 mistakes to avoid. Okay? So the 4 mistakes are, by round of applause, let's see if any of you have made these mistakes. Okay? Number 1, indecisive to make an investment. When you first heard about Bitcoin, you forgot and did not want to buy Bitcoin. Anyone make that mistake? Yes, clap your hands. Okay. Okay, number 2 mistake is similar. When you first buy Bitcoin, you didn't buy enough. So more people make that. I made that mistake, yes. And number 3 is selling your Bitcoin after a small gain. It goes up 30%, 50%, you sell it after 100% return. But really, I say if you're going to buy Bitcoin, you should wait for at least 20x return or 100x return. Really, if you're only waiting for 20% return, don't buy Bitcoin. Buy real estate, buy stocks or something, And the same thing, number 4 mistake is selling your Bitcoin during a panic crash. I think that's a very severe mistake. Many people are making that mistake. They're all panicking right now with the market adjustments. Okay, so thank you very much. This is the impact of Bitcoin through ownership, control, and freedom. Please please follow me on Twitter. So I'll have a few minutes to answer some questions, to take some questions. Right? Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. If you have a question, why don't you stand up quickly, and then we'll take a question. If anyone in the audience? Nope. Okay, right here, gentlemen, sir. Yeah, I'm going to throw you this. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Oh. Is it on? Go ahead.
Is it on? Sorry, could you throw it back, please?
Okay.
Might have to shout across.
Yeah, just shout your question.
Just want to ask you with current cycle, you have maybe people standing back and waiting for it to correct even more.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's going to be very confusing for new entrants to decipher between the various Bitcoins after the forks?
Yeah. So about when to enter, new people coming in. So certainly, here's what I would say. Bitcoin is a long-term investment. Okay, long-term, 10 years, 20 years. Okay, long-term is not 1 year. 1 year is not long-term. 10 years or more. Okay, so if you're going to invest in Bitcoin, you have to be committed. You're doing it because you want to hold it for 10 or more years. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter what price you come in at. It doesn't matter. Right? If you bought Bitcoin in 2011 at $3 versus $6 versus $10, does it matter? It doesn't matter. Because 2 things. One is, you know for sure, it doesn't matter if it's $3 or $10, you didn't buy enough. Right? And it didn't matter because now Bitcoin is at $3,000, $4,000. So whether you bought Bitcoin buy it now at $4,000 or you bought it last year at $20,000 or you bought it earlier this year at $10,000, it doesn't matter because you're holding it for 10 years. And when you do buy Bitcoin, don't expect it to only go up. It could go down before it goes up. And that's what's happening to a lot of people. And you just got to live with it. Okay? And regarding all the other forks and all that stuff, that's a reality. That's why it's freedom. Right? If the world insisted there's only one Bitcoin, it was controlled, only one Bitcoin and nothing else, no altcoins, no shitcoins, just one Bitcoin, then that's not decentralized. So the fact that it's decentralized, the fact that there's other forks and so on, proves to me that this is a decentralized asset. But the market will decide which of the Bitcoin symbols and so on will be the real thing. Okay? I'm a big firm believer of Bitcoin. Thank you for that question. We'll take one more.
Okay, this time it works.
Okay, right here.
Does that work?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. So I agree that holding is nice for people to do. I hold some myself. But if you really believe in Bitcoin, there should be a large amount of people spending and using and sending Bitcoin, using it for goods and services, because it's not fair to think that you can hold, other people use it, the value will go up and you'll cash in, right? So if you're a true believer, you should be using it. Sure, you can hold some as an investment, but I think that we need to focus more on getting more companies and shops and services, getting them to accept crypto in the first place, or else you really won't get that mass adoption. So just curious to get your thoughts there on using and spending versus holding.
Yeah, using is important, but I'm not going to say that using is the most important aspect. Okay, it's like this 500 euro note. The fact that I have it in my hand is useful to me. The very fact that I have it, I could bring it from country to country, city to city. The fact that I could give it to someone else is useful to me. The fact that if I go to McDonald's in Singapore, if I give them this, will they give me McDonald's, Big Mac, French fries? Probably not. It's not practical for me to use this 500 euro note at a McDonald's in Singapore. But the fact that I'm holding it, using it, it's a store of value. Somewhere in the world, I can then exchange it for different currencies, for smaller bills where I could use it. Same thing. If you have Bitcoin, you can actually go buy a car. How do you buy a car with Bitcoin? Does it mean that you have to go to the car dealership and pay in Bitcoin? You don't have to. I can go to McDonald's and pay in euro. I don't have to use this piece of paper. When I go to the dealer, I could pay for a car using my credit card, right? And then I would pay the credit card when the credit card bill comes to me next month. In the meantime, I sell my Bitcoins on an exchange and take the money out, transfer it out, and move it. So it's a more cumbersome process. But the point is, Bitcoin today is not mature yet. It's not fully mature yet. We're only 10 years into it. So I agree with you, we should make it more useful. Many people in the industry are making it more useful. But in the end, don't get caught up by the fact that you can't spend Bitcoin to buy a car. You can, because you just have to sell the Bitcoin and in exchange, take the money and buy the car, okay? So in the meantime, thank you very much. Thank you for that question. And I hope that let's make Bitcoin great again. And I look for a great 10-year birthday party for Bitcoin this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bobby.
Yeah.